So today, we are tackling something that is very interesting. I've had conversations, had several debates with so many people that I work with locally and globally about this particular topic. And I think it's one of those things that define, in a way, the success of your organization. And I think it's essential that we discuss. Again, I'm going to give the premise that this is based on my experience, and experiences vary, right? And so everything you hear today, just take it as just probably lessons or insights, and you can apply what works for you. So today, what to expect? I'm going to talk a little bit about ADPList, some trade-offs, why local or global, which is the main thing, and then also I'll share some um, things that helped us make our decisions as we built the platform. So for those of you that know me, hi. For those of you that do not know me, my name is James, founding designer at Mintlify. Mintlify is a documentation platform. We aim to build the best developer experience in the world, which I think we currently are building. I'm also the co-founder of ADPList. ADPList is a global community that basically builds a platform to democratize mentorship. And ADPList is going to be the focal point for this conversation today. And yeah, I do other things. For those the guys that know me, that they know the things I do. So democratize. Okay. So yeah, let's start with the ADPList story. And guys, I feel free to. I have two screens, so feel free to leave questions in the chat. I would address them as I'm talking, and then also when we get to the Q&A, you can also leave some. You can also ask your questions, so we do not spend too much time on the Q&A as well. So the ADPList origin story. I don't know how many of you remember the pandemic when it actually happened, but you realize that when you go to LinkedIn, which is the jobs, so many people a lot of companies were laying off people, especially Facebook, Google, all of those fun companies, and even the startups are laying off a lot of people, right? And this became a challenge, not just design, like across tech. Tech was like literally like the biggest one. And so a lot of people started posting, they lost their jobs, and they are looking for new roles and this and that. So it was just chaos. And that was basically when Felix, my co-founder, got the idea that, look, people are losing their jobs, right? It's not a new idea. It's like, okay, what can I do to also help the community? And so he started curating job posts that are available, and then sharing them. And he started from a Google Sheet. And so he posted this Google Sheet. I was on LinkedIn by then. I was seeing a lot of these layoffs, so many sheets, things happening, people building websites and stuff. And so when I saw what Felix did, I realized that there was something quite unique about it, because he wasn't just posting jobs, he was posting people that were actually willing to help people get jobs or mentor them or help them with portfolio reviews and things like that. And I reached out. When I reached out, I told him, considering that you are doing this for the design community, why don't you make something really nice out of it? And that was basically the first time we had a conversation. So the conversation happened on LinkedIn. It was like a Thursday night. We had a call the next day. We're like, okay. After that conversation, we realized that, okay, this guy is somebody that I could actually do something with. And so we decided to build a platform. So that's Friday night. We actually created, designed everything in Figma, and then I went ahead to build the entire platform in Webflow. And that was when, again, low code was sort of like being mentioned a lot. And so I used Webflow to build everything from filtering, searching, and all of those stuff. Then we launched the platform. I think it was a Sunday. and we reached out to a few design leaders in the industry who were also active on LinkedIn. And we basically told them that, look, this is something we are doing. Could you be a mentor? Could you support us? Could you um, help us make it, help people, right? And that was basically how the whole mission started. And that brings me to my first point, is so many people want to build companies, and they usually come up with ideas because they face the problem, right? And you realize that a lot of startups that fail are like, oh, I face this problem, or I realize that people need this, but they do not actually validate whether or not people actually need it, right? But what worked for ADPList was we identified an opportunity, because again, at that point in time, people were facing problems. People were losing jobs. So anybody that sees a job portal would obviously visit our website. And so the key lesson here on this particular note is you do not just build solutions because you think you identified a problem. Your problem needs to be an opportunity that you derived from a crisis or a situation that nobody is solving or nobody is building a solution for. That's how you actually build something that's impactful. And especially when it comes to social impact, it becomes more valuable to users when those needs match the right timing. Again, timing is very important when form of solution. For instance, right now, AI is the boom. And so anybody that builds anything and attaches AI to it is going to get attention. I remember 2 years ago, 3 years ago, crypto was the thing. So anything, people were spinning off products that was helping with generating tokens and things like that, right? And that was the time for it. And so when you are building a solution or any form of solution, you need to identify this is a challenge or there is an opportunity there. And then two, the timing is right. You do not just build anything anytime I think it will work. So that's key lesson number one. And yeah, one fun fact is Felix and I still have not met yet. We plan on meeting very soon. I'll send you pictures when I finally meet him. Now, some metrics from ADPList. Some metrics from ADPList. Currently, I think there are over 200K approved mentors. We are working with over 20K global organizations, including all the big companies you can think about right now. I think about close to 30 million session minutes currently recorded, over 150 countries counting. And yeah, the users I can't even count. So I said so many users there. So yeah, this slide, I'm sure you guys have basically captured the key point that I mentioned here. Whoever remembers it, just put it in the chat so that others can also follow. Now, the next thing, focusing on design and then the impact of early growth. Now, when we started ADPList, people were asking us, oh, why don't you open it to tech, like general tech, software engineering and things like that? Like people reach out to you, oh, I'm trying to look for a mentor in tech, but I realize it's just designers. Like, why do you have only designers? Why won't you spin off why would you accommodate other people, right? But then our simple answer was we wanted to focus on a specific market or on a specific group of people, right? Now, how does this help in early growth? How does focus help in early growth? Now, when you are building any new solution, one of the things you need to think about is you do not want to spread yourself thin when it comes to building solutions for people. Because again, most of the time, the solution that you are offering or the opportunity you have seen, it's probably your first time doing that thing. And so when you go in and you're like, oh, I want to build, people reach out to me and they're like, they're building the best telehealth platform for everybody. Like you cannot build solutions for everybody unless you are Google or Microsoft anyway. And so one thing that really helps you figure out what you really want to do, or the opportunities, the solutions that you need to deliver for that opportunity, is being able to focus on an ideal customer profile. Now, what do I mean by that? For ADPList, what we did was basically focus on design first. We are designers. We know the design community. We know what's happening there. what are the solutions that we can offer to these people that can later on translate to other kind of users. So for us, we're not in a rush to serve everybody because at that time I wasn't necessarily very well versed in a dev community, so I didn't know what was happening. I didn't even know the influential people there. But then when it comes to design, we knew people at InVision, Google, and the rest. So it's easy for us to sort of like gain access to some of these networks. But then in tech or marketing or things like that, we're not necessarily well versed in that. And so that warranted us basically focusing on design. And that is why we made that decision. Now, key lesson here, if you're building a solution for any opportunity, I'm using opportunity because I think is the right word to use, but you can say any problem or anything. But then if you're building a solution for any opportunity, one of the things you would want to do is really, really, really try to figure out the kind of users, the user personas, the customer profiles that you're trying to target, and then take one. Again, this is personal advice. Take one and then try to figure everything about that personal uh, customer profile. Once you figure out the things that you need to do and you satisfy that customer, the likelihood of that customer being 90% familiar or probably the same as the other customer is very high. The probability is very high. So, for instance, we have different needs, we are in different communities, but Google has built Gmail, and Gmail is being used by literally everybody on this call, even Google Meet, right? Google did not come to Africa to say they are coming to interview Africans for to know whether or not Google Meet is going to work for them. And then people keep saying the African context and things like that. We'll come to those nuances later. Google basically built a solution for a specific user group and then scaled that solution because they realized that 90% of the time, again, 90% is just a figure I'm using, but most of the time, the solution that you have, the core solution that you have for a specific group of people is likely going to work for most of the other users. But then when you go ahead and build a solution without necessarily narrowing down and then focusing on a specific group and then build everything, just spread yourself wide, right, horizontally, you realize that you miss a lot of things that you need to do. And hence, you build a solution that does not even work for anybody at all. And then your company ends up failing. And so for ADPList, focusing on design basically helped us gain traction. We identified the issues. We're able to personally connect with designers. And then it really helped us basically build credibility and trust, which is a very important thing. Now, it's not necessarily just in the banking industry that you need to build trust and credibility everywhere in every situation. As far as your solution demands that a human being uses it, you need to build credibility and trust. So the next thing, which is like the main topic for today, solving a universal need, enabling global scale. Now, we decided to go global with our solution. You building a product does not necessarily mean you should go global. But then, what are some of the signals that you need to look out for to help you basically identify whether the solution you are building requires a global audience or you just need to focus on probably your specific geography, right? Now, the first thing here is mentorship is a universal challenge, transcending geography, industry, and culture. So, from the day you are born to the day you die, you always have somebody probably sharing knowledge with you, trying to discipline you, trying to guide you. That's the reason why we have proverbs. We even have the Bible, things like that. We have church. All of these things shape you up as a human being. And so you realize that throughout your lifetime, you are always learning, gaining knowledge, learning from people's experiences whilst you're gaining that experience. And then for us, solving a problem like mentorship, making it global or democratizing it, it's a global issue. Everybody requires mentorship at some point in their life. And so for us, it was an opportunity for us to say that, okay, look, it doesn't even make sense to limit this solution to just Singaporeans or just Ghanaians or just in Africa, right? Because this is a universal problem or challenge. And so universal challenges or opportunities require universal solutions, right? And so that was basically one of the biggest signals for us to basically decide that, okay, we want to make ADPList a global platform. And so that's key point number one. Now, another thing is, again, at the point of the pandemic, that was when people started connecting online. You realize that a lot of things was happening online. That was when Zoom got a lot of traction, Google Meet. So many people decided to now use technology. You realize that the digital literacy rate has drastically increased due to the pandemic. And so for us, like we started seeing signals that look, people from different parts of the world, not just North America and then Southeast Asia, people like across the world were basically trying to reach the platform, browsing from different places, figuring out what they can do with the platform, reaching out to us, sending messages and stuff. And so you wake up in a day and you realize that, okay, there are 10 people sending you messages from 10 different countries, right? Sometimes you even realize that you don't even get messages from even Africa, literally different geography, different countries, different continents altogether. And so for us, it was natural for us to realize that, okay, the demand is not just a local thing. It wasn't just specific to, let's say, Asia. It was basically coming from everywhere. And so that was like another signal to help us realize that, look, this is not a local solution. This is not something that we just build for Ghanaians or Africans. This is something that we think is going to help people globally, right? And again, as I mentioned, mentorship is something that everybody needs. Everybody would definitely get at some point in their life. And so for us, it was a borderless solution for us to basically build. And so again, easy peasy, right? For us to make a decision that, okay, no, limiting this platform to Africa is just going to be, we just make things just worse. Now, here are some further trade-offs, right? So now, it's not just about building um, or just identifying whether the solution is a global issue or not. Sometimes you have a solution that requires a global audience, but you may not necessarily be in a position to make that decision. So you realize that there are solutions that are so good for everybody, but then they are just limited to a specific place, or they are even just limited to specific geographies because of some challenges. So for instance, Ghana does not have PayPal. PayPal is so good for Ghanaians. We need it, but it's not here. There are challenges, right? Every industry has their own challenges that decides or determines whether or not they need to be available for all geographies. And so here are just a few. So I try to create pros and cons for each of these scenarios. So when you're looking at a local context, right? If I'm building a solution for Ghanaians, the probability of me having deeper connections, engagements, access to people to gain insights is very high. Because again, it's easy. I can just call you on phone. I can just drive to your house. I can just meet you somewhere. Like it's so easy to meet people here, right? And so it's easy for you to basically relate or build that trust, right? But then the challenge here is, again, growth is slower, right? And the risk of you fragmenting the solution that basically you're trying to build is so high because again you're focusing on a specific market. And so if your solution is not very well versed for a localized market, you end up just limiting yourself and fragmenting everything that you're doing, just trying to focus and build a solution that's supposed to be global for a local market. So that's for the local customization. The global one is, again, you have a broader reach, network effect. As I said, when we started ADPList, we reached out to people who were influential in the design community, and they reached out to others by word of mouth, things like that. So that generated a huge traction network effect, which caused a lot of people to reach out to us, come to the platform, and then use the platform. And so global scalability basically opens up the opportunity for you to basically, it makes you more diverse, right? But then the challenge is your solution or the kind of like experiences you build are no longer unique, right? And now you have to think about different cultural nuances, right? So, for instance, for a platform that's supposed to be just English, you need to have to think about localization. So, languages in other countries, right? For a platform that you probably need to send SMS, now you need to consider all countries, which countries can you send SMS to, which countries do you need permits for, things like that. So there are so many cultural nuances that like you have to face, or challenges you have to face when you're building for a global audience. And when we talk about cultural nuances, right, um, it's really not just about, again, culture, like, okay, the kind of religion, the kind of way of life, and things like that. Cultural nuances can be even the policies that your government makes, right? Cultural nuances can be even the, how do you call it, the level of literacy that a country has, right? That will determine how successful your market, like your outreach to the market, is going to be. And so these are some of the things you need to think about when you are trying to build a solution for um, any type of solution. Now, what did we do right? So basically, one of the things we really did right was we balanced both strategies. Now, I don't know how many of you have been ADPList chapter leaders or community leaders, or have hosted an ADPList session or something locally, some of those meetups. But that's one of the things we did. So even though we built for a global audience, we gave some level of control or authority, or empowered some local chapters to actually try and do their own thing. So you realize that we have ADPList Africa, we have ADPList this, now we have a lot of communities across the world. Now, what this does is it takes the best of the global building for the global audience, which is like the access, and then also basically takes the best of building for a local context, which is like that access and an interpersonal relationship, and then combines those two things together. I think that's one of the things Figma did when Figma basically came to when Figma started, right? Figma identified that, look, design education in Africa is is extremely poor, right? And so but then they identify that there are so many talents in Africa, or there are the market in Africa is quite huge. So how do they penetrate into the markets right in Africa? And one of the things they did was have Figma ambassadors. Now they have friends of Figma and things like that. So you realize that we have leaders in these various communities evangelizing about this product, whilst the product or the company in itself focuses on the global audience that they've built for. And so these are some of the strategies you can think about if you're building a solution. First of all, identify the context based on the solution. Does your solution demand a global audience, or does it demand a local audience? Weigh the pros and cons, whichever one works for you. If it requires you to balance, again, if you have the resources to balance, you can actually do so. If it does not require you to balance, focus on the things that you need to focus on first before continuing with that solution. Now, identifying and scaling global demand. Building a software for a global audience is extremely hard, like extremely difficult. And you always need to leverage, like, it's very resource intensive, right? And you need to leverage a lot of partnerships to make things happen. Because again, building a global audience, a product for a global audience, requires a lot. And you cannot necessarily build everything on your own, even if you have all the resources. So you realize that even our sources, their hardware, they have factories in China. Now they are moving to India and things like that, right? And that's basically one of the things most of these companies do to succeed. And one of the things that helped at scale really quickly is the organic signups. As I said earlier, there were a lot of network effects. Reach out to this person, they also reach out to somebody else who also tells a friend, tell a friend, tell another friend, that kind of thing. And so for us, I think we only started doing, I don't know if we actually did, but we experimented with paid ad some time back, but it wasn't really a thing, right? Even after a year or a year and a half, we never did anything paid ad, right? Everything was literally organic. And some of the things we're doing were hosting events, things like that. I think at some point, hackathons and stuff like that, right? And for us, like seeing the signals from the data we have showing that, okay, there are a lot of people engaging in a specific geography more than the other. Basically, these are signals that help you determine that, okay, why are people in this particular geography engaging more than these other people in the other geography? And that brings me to my next point is data is very important. You cannot make decisions on just qualitative um, data. You need quantitative data. And so data in any form is very, very important. So I see people saying that, oh, I spoke with users and they seem to be happy about these products. They said they'll do this and that. But what is your app actually telling you? So for instance, you meet a founder, you're having a conversation with a founder and they're saying, oh, our users love the product. Anytime I speak with them, they love the product. But then you ask them about probably even just the daily active users and things like that. And like they don't have that data, or they don't even have the amount of users that they claim they have, right? And so it's very important to consider any form of data when you're building any form of solution, whether qualitative or quantitative, in any form, right? And I think that was one of the things that really helped us a lot. Of course, there are things like partnerships and sponsorships that came from InVision, which is no longer. Slack still supports us, and then some other companies as well. So all of these things help a lot when you're scaling any global product. Now, I think I mentioned all of these things, but let me reiterate again, tying this to any founder building a company, right? You need to stay true to your mission. It's okay to pivot. You can pivot at any time if you see that this is not working. And I encourage founders to pivot quickly if they can. But then one of the things I encourage people to do is try and stick. Why did you actually start this, right? What was the opportunity? So why did you even believe that this is going to work? And trying to stick to that mission really helps a lot, because sometimes that mission is true. It's actually an opportunity that you can leverage on. The only challenge you have is your solution. So being able to change and experiment across or along that mission really helps you to figure out what exactly you want to do. But then you find people after 2 months, they realize that they were not getting the users that they were expecting, and then they want to pivot and then go and do something else. It doesn't work that way. So one thing, focus on your mission. And the thing is, if you are trying to also raise funds, I don't know how many of you know this, but most VCs or most people that fund companies or invest don't necessarily invest in the solution. They actually invest in the founders, right? Because again, companies fail, companies die. But then most of the relentless founders usually end up pivoting and then figuring out why it wasn't working and then find a solution to it, which is what you want to put your money into. And so as a founder, if you are trying to raise money and then you don't even believe in your own mission, you don't even know how to scale it or make how to figure it out, I mean, nobody's going to give you any money. So if you are here, you've tried raising money and you've not gotten for some time, ask yourself the question, are you the right founder for this company? And so that's a good question to ask yourself. Again, as I said, prioritizing product experience over paid growth. Again, we focused a lot on the product. I think some of the feedback we got a lot where, oh, the platform is simple, it's easy to use, things like that, right? And then also we had to leverage a lot of community, taking a lot of feedback, and that was basically one of those things that really helped a lot. Partnerships helped a lot. Again, this is something about Ghanaian companies and founders. Please don't beat me for this one, but I know people steal ideas, and I've been a victim of that so many times. But Charlie, like, the moment you thought about the idea, just know that somebody has also thought about it. And so trying to hide ideas for yourself and things like that, it doesn't work. If you want to grow, you don't grow alone, you grow together. And that's the challenge with our industry, like our tech ecosystem in Africa, right? We do not partner with each other to scale. So I am currently the founding designer at Mintlify, which is a YC company. And they YC companies have this culture of like partner, like YC companies use YC companies product. So for us, Mintlify, a lot of YC companies use our product. We also use a lot of their product. That's how you grow together. And so you form these partnerships. I don't know, we recently did a program, a project where we partner with other YC companies to give you like a starter pack. So a starter pack contains like 5K USD worth of vessel hosting, this, that, right? That's how you grow together. At the end of the day, when somebody signs up for that starter pack, that's a single user for all these companies that they can basically sell to. And so, like, your idea, even though you think it's unique, it's not unique. Like, I'm sure you even stole it from somewhere. And so, please, like, instead of trying to hide things, if your solution is good, it's good. Again, Cloudflare has been there for many years before Vessel. But Vessel is one of the best solutions out there right now. Google Cloud has been there. Vessel still people still prefer to use Vessel and solutions like that. So, like, usually your solution is not new. It's probably just an improvement of an existing solution. So instead of trying to say, IP, things like that, which again, most of us do not understand what IP actually even means, try and then leverage the community that you have, work with other people. You might not know, somebody might be doing something that would also support your product, right? And so working with that person would even help you leverage on resources that you originally do not have. And so please, partnerships are very, very, very important. Okay, partnership is very important. And building for cross-border accessibility. Again, global solution, you need to cater for different geographies. Another thing that I always tell, so if you have a question, you can leave it in the chat. I would basically address it before we reach the Q&A as well. Another thing I talk to founders about is the importance of community. I always think that community is like the cheapest way to buy ads. Like, instead of paying for ads, right? Build a community that trusts you, a community that believes in your products. Build that trust and realize that people will intentionally and unintentionally sell your product for you all the time. How many of you have recommended Figma to other people? Like, I see designers even challenging people about Figma. Use Figma, don't use Sketch, don't use Adobe XD. Like, people will fight you because of that, because they are Figma people. And that's the spirit of community. When you build a community around your product, you realize that people basically just become advocates instantly. But obviously, your product needs to be good, right? So leverage the power of community to actually scale your product. That helps a lot. And I think that's something most of our communities, our products in Africa do not have, which is that community. Obviously, building a community requires a good product. So you need to make sure your product's also good, is good as well. And then the other thing has to do with product consistency and simplicity, right? So oftentimes, most people just want something simple to use. Some time back, one founder in Africa here, I won't mention the country, reached out. First, they started with, I want to do this. And then the next time they are like, I think I want to, when we add this, it's going to be nice. Then the next time is, let's add this. It's going to make our company even like bigger. Then the next day, every day there is a new idea. Every single day there is a new idea. And they just want to build it. They feel like, okay, when I have the idea, no, developers build it. They don't validate any assumption, nothing. They just go ahead and say, I have this idea. Every week there are 5 ideas and it needs to be ready the next week. That's how a lot of African founders think. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Most of the time, people just need a simple form on your website to be able to send you a message. You reach out to them, you have a conversation, you sell them a product. That's all you need. Solutions are not necessarily just about technology and features and all of those stuff. It's about delivering the customer experience, right, to those users. If somebody needs like an easy way to, let's say, book an appointment with a doctor, what prevents you from just being a middleman, right? Right now, company registrations are very difficult. And I see a lot of people doing this business. Like, so assuming that you want to start a business like that, first of all, start with what is big happening currently and learn from that process, right? You don't need to build the like somebody tell you our system is hosted on AWS, this thing Azure, we use it like Elasticsearch. Come on, like guys, you, you don't need all of those things, right? You just need to build a simple solution and then people are going to use it. Like it just needs to deliver the value. Okay. ADPList started as a Google Sheet. We didn't need a website. Me, I went to build a website. But at the end of the Google Sheet was working and people were still connecting with each other. Technology comes in to ease out the experience and basically optimize it. It doesn't replace the core experience that is there. So once you figure out that core experience, just keep things simple. Consistency is key. Now, this is something that I think we also need to talk about, which is like adapting to different user needs while maintaining the mission. As I began, I said people reach out to us asking, why are you not building this for general like software engineers and things like that? People have so many ideas and we've experimented with so many things. But at the end of the day, we just came back to the core thing. Let's focus on designers, scale that, then we expand to other areas. And so that's one of those things that you as a founder, you need to think about. You need to figure out what exactly, take like a user persona, right? So for instance, you are building, let's say, Uber. You want to build reinvent Uber, right? And you did your research and you realize that, oh, there are so many like ICPs or user personas, right? At that point, you need to figure out, okay, what's the most critical user persona, or like who exactly do I need to figure out that's like the median, right? So when you take all the user personas, there's usually a median person that sort of like has the qualities of almost all of them. And then there are extreme users, right? So you have this pyramid like this where there is a median and then there are extreme edge cases that you have. Take that median and then ask yourself, okay, what are the solutions that I need to build for this person? Or maybe you want to build like a product for a specific, let's say you are from Ghana, and then you want to build a product for Africa, right? Start with your local audience first, or go to another country and start with that country that you think has more opportunities and will help you scale faster. Instead of staying in Ghana and then trying to change lives in South Africa somewhere that you've never been before, right? Again, it depends. It depends on the solution you're building, but try to figure out key areas that you can improve, that you can manage, that you really understand before trying to spread out to other areas. Culture is, again, very important. Cultural nuances does not mean people wear kente, people speak Ewe and things like that. Not just that. That's not the only thing. Cultural nuances can be political, it can be infrastructural, it can be anything that exists and is unique to a specific geography. Doomsday is a cultural thing. If you are in a country where your solution depends on electricity and there is always doomsday, it's not going anywhere. Okay. And so those are the things that you need to focus on. Culture, basically, culture has influence on a lot of things. Now, another thing, as I said, is building standards, balancing standards, quality and scalability. I see so many building solutions and maybe the solution only requires, let's say, Google Forms. But then they go set up this bare metal server and then put a simple, like so many things that are not needed, right? For just a form that somebody needs to fill. You need to focus on what you are delivering, which is the quality of the product experience that you are delivering, and then how to scale it. Because all of these things have a timeline. So when you start a company, you start by serving a few users. There are usually a few edge cases that you face, a few bugs here and there. But then as your user base begins to grow, now you start thinking about scale, especially when you raise your let's say, seed round and then Series A, then you realize that your company grows exponentially like this. And so that's when you think about scalability. So the foundations you set today are going to be what determines how fast you scale. Sometimes people build solutions. I don't know if you guys, yeah, I'm sure a lot of you guys know this product called Amy. They had a really fancy website, and then a really, really fancy calendar app. And their founder said they had to rebuild the product all over again. Again, they gained a lot of traction. They realized that, look, they were serving the wrong needs. They were trying to please the wrong people. They had to build a solution all over again just to make sure that because they've identified the kind of target audience that they're looking at, they had to rebuild the entire solution to serve that purpose. And so, again, foundations determine how fast you scale. It doesn't prevent you from scaling. That's one thing you need to know as well. Yeah, so I think I've shared a lot. Just wanted to also share some highlights about the growth patterns we realized. First year of ADPList, we had users from like literally all over the world, over 80 countries. I think I remember the last time when we reached our first 1 million session, we also started hosting the Be More Festival as well. It was an incredible milestone. And I think one of the things that you get to realize as a founder when your product or your business begins to grow is you realize that the patterns become clear, right? So for instance, if you used to like have 10 people join your sign up like every day, now there are like 100, 200, 300 people signing up every day. Now, the more your user base grows, the more your problems also grow. Because if now 3 mentors are reaching out to you every week because they are facing challenges or your platform sucks and they are being brutal about the feedback they give you, now it's an extra 20 adding to that 3 mentors already giving you headaches. And so one of the things that we basically did was to, again, simplify the experience, try to take as much feedback as we can. And then again, bringing me to the next point, the fact that you are getting feedback, one, doesn't mean your product is great. Two, doesn't mean that you should take all the feedback that you are getting and then implement them. And then 3, doesn't mean that what you are doing is the right thing, right? Feedback could be in any form. Maybe you are getting very bad feedback. Sometimes the reason why you're getting bad feedback is because people love your product, they have expectations, and then you are not meeting those expectations again. Sometimes you are getting feedback, really good, nice feedback, because people are not even using your product. They are just looking at your landing page. Oh, then landing page is nice. Then they assume the product is already nice, right? And so you begin to realize that there are a lot of patterns, like so many things happen from your user base growing to rapid growth. Now you have to hire people. Now you don't know which geography to focus on. So again, North American people are saying you should launch your updates this time, like so many things. African people are saying, oh, you need to host Be More Festival in Africa and things like that. And so again, there are so many. Somebody says, when I'm rich, there'll be signs, right? So these signals are very visible, and there are patterns that realize, like you see, and then you realize that, look, your company is actually growing. And I think as a founder, if you want to really determine whether or not you've gotten product market fit and you're about to scale, there are some things that, again, I see so many companies saying, oh, they have 3, 4, 5 users, and probably they have a revenue of $100 yearly, and they think they have product market fit. It doesn't work that way. Like when you see growth, you know, okay, and these are some of the signals that you actually see. Now, lessons learned. Again, these lessons are general lessons, and I believe a lot of you have already learned some of these lessons, but I want to iterate, right, on some of these things. One, you start local if you want to build trust, and iterate quickly. If you have a global product, you realize that it's a global product that serves a global audience, I would also advise that even though you are going global, start with a niche, iterate, quickly learn, validate before you scale. Okay, so always start small, no matter how big or small your product is. Always start small. Don't try to be playing big boy like you would. It's not going to end well. So please try to build trust, build a good product before you scale it. Design with a global mindset if a problem is universal. Already talked about this. Scale globally requires standards. So quality, standards, consistency. Yeah, you need to also, again, never lose sight of your mission. Why did you start? Why did you start doing this? What is it that you identify that you think caused you or encouraged you to pick up the road that you've taken or start a company? Always keep that in mind. Community is very important. And so for me, if I'm going to build, I doubt, but if I'm going to start a new company, one of the key things I'll think, I'll not even go to the product side. I think technology, there are so many people who are good at design nowadays. There are so many people who are good at building products. I'd rather focus on marketing and community, right? Because that's where the business is. So technology starts a company, marketing or sales or community grows the company. That's one of the advice I've heard recently. And always stay rooted to your original purpose. So these are some lessons that I think it's nice to share. That's like 54 minutes. I wanted to go through quickly so that we can have conversations and then more Q&As and stuff like that. So this is just like a few things that I wanted to share. There are obviously so many things that come into play when you are building a company, and I'm sure during the Q&A I will be able to bring some of those things up. But yeah, I hope these things I shared were actually useful to you guys. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, James. I think you shared quite a lot. I think I like what you said so far. I think our guests probably have gleaned a lot of knowledge from him. I think my takeaway, or one of my main takeaway, is, even though you might be building a global company, balance it with a little bit of tailored, localized solution, if that applies. And also, assess what you're solving for. If, it's a global solution or it's a local solution, assess if the problem exists widely in other markets. And, and when you're solving for it, as you said, make it a little bit of tailored, localized solution to it. And data, gets quantitative and qualitative data as well. So, I think there is said that, Ghanaians are like generally nice. If, ask them about your app, it's like, oh, I like it. Don't say anything bad about it. But go to the app, see the people that say, this app is nice. Are they really using it? So, yeah. So, thank you very much. We open the floor for questions. If you have questions, you can raise your hand. I'll call you, and you'd unmute yourself and talk. So let me know if anybody has any conversations. Anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand. I will call you, then you unmute yourself and talk. If you don't want to do that, you could also drop it in the chat. It could be on what James has discussed here, or it could be something else outside that James can help with. Any question that James can help with as well. So you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and talk. Basically. Any questions from anybody? Or you can put it in the chat as well. Okay, put on the chat. I think somebody has their hands up. Confirm who that is. Norbert. You can unmute yourself and talk and ask your question, contributions. I think we welcome contributions as well, apart from questions.
Yes.
Norbert, do go ahead.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for the presentation, James. Really appreciate it. I'm Norbert. I'm in Kigali, Rwanda. and I'm lucky to be getting some support from James. So I really appreciate what he's sharing here. So I have one comment and one question. So I'll start with the question. I know this your focus is not on this, but I want to hear your advice anyway. You talked a lot about design, community, and all of that, but what about fundraising and managing things to do with money? And I'm sure you have a lot of insight. So I would like to hear a few words of wisdom from that aspect. And my contribution is I just want to confirm what you said in terms of starting local and trying to solve. As you know, I'm also starting my own startup. I started with a certain idea. And very quickly, I realized that even though it might still be a good idea, I was approaching it the complete wrong way. And one of the best decisions I've made, I think, was to partner with the local company to approach the people who had the problem I thought I could solve, but that I could solve immediately. So the original idea would have required me to do a lot of sourcing and other things. So I kind of went to the people who had the problem, and the solution was there where I could actually contribute. And really, really interestingly, this week I did a test where we called about 120 people, trying to see if they were interested, and out of them, only 3 said no. So that is, to me, is a very big reward for going that way. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great. So, with let me just comment on the latter one. So again, this is just one of those signals. When you are doing something originally, again, most of the ideas start from us. We see something we think is a challenge. Most often we want to make money. And so we fail to realize that we need to figure out or ask people whether it's a solution they actually need. And that's basically what Norbert did, right? So he went back, he wanted to do this whole thing. He went back to ask the people that he really, really is building this solution for, as a way to validate his assumptions before spending so much money on doing something that wasn't even needed or necessary. And I encourage everybody to actually do that as well. Now, on the issue of fundraising, so I would give you a simple, short answer and then a very long answer. So the simple, short answer is, if you can bootstrap, please do. The reason why I say that is there is a lot that comes with taking people's money and putting them into a business. There is a lot of risk. You have to deal with a lot of things as well. So you are not just running a company, you are managing people's funds and making sure they get exponential value out of what they've given you. That's the short answer. The long answer is, fundraising is actually not easy. And unfortunately, in Africa, there has been a lot of precedences that happened where founders have taken VC money or even angels money and they've squandered it. So I don't know if you realize, most of the founders in Africa, they raise money and then they start, before you realize, no, they have a new house, they have a new car. And we just think the money is our own and we just spend it anyhow without necessarily investing our money back into the business. And so that has created like a very wrong impression about African founders. And so fundraising is extremely difficult nowadays. Not to say there isn't money available. There is actually a lot of money available. And if you know the right place to look at, you will definitely find them. One of the places, things I often encourage people to do is join an accelerator program. If you're a small company with a product that it's gaining some traction. Now, the reason why you need to do this is accelerator programs really teach you a lot about managing, raising again, and then building a business. And then also they provide you with an environment and then a community where they expose you to people who actually give you money. So for instance, Y Combinator, it's very difficult to enter YC, but once you enter YC, your money is guaranteed. Now, the thing about being in a community like that is you like most of they have like people, investors, former founders, like so many people who are willing to just sign checks, right? And so like it's so easy, and it's easy to trust a company coming out of YC, right? Even like their failure rate is very low. And so when people realize that you've been part of this accelerator program, it means that you've gone through the right training, you have the right network, you have the right tools to make a company succeed. And all an investor is thinking about is how they can make their money. They can exponentially increase their money, right? And they want to make sure that whoever they are giving their money to has the financial stewardship and then the right skills to basically manage that money. That's one. Another thing is, again, you usually have people coming to you to give you money when they actually see that you've gained some traction or you've actually started making some revenue. I've been hearing a lot of, I've been reading a lot lately about talking to investors and things like that. And nowadays, like, there is a lot of ambiguity in having conversations with, how do you call it? Investors. Somebody will tell you, oh, just say AI or women led or pre-revenue, things like that. And then, oh, it sounds mysterious, they'll give you money, but it doesn't really work that way. Okay. Yes, there is usually often a soft spot for most people when they see a company being women led, or nowadays the jargon AI. So you just have a solution and slap AI on top. It may work, but it doesn't always work. What really works is when investors realize that you do not need their money. That is when they actually want to give you the money. And how do you not need investors' money? It's by making your own money, right? It means your products can live without their money. And so they are giving you the money because they know that, Charlie, you've already proven that you can do the thing. And so take the money, and they are guaranteed that worst case, you will still get them back their money. And that's what happens generally. Aside that, I usually also encourage people to raise from family and friends. The reason why sometimes this is very important is usually money raised from angels or family and friends. It's usually not debt. It's actually equity based, and so which is again same for accelerators and stuff. So you take money from family and friends, you give them equity in the business, all of you share the liabilities. And so when something goes wrong, we all lose because you're part of the company now. Not to say go and take people's money, your family members' money, and then squander it. But then if you're looking for easy ways to actually raise money without necessarily ending up in debt, and nowadays they will even jail you, you would want to take some of these approaches to ease the stress that you go through when raising money. There are a lot of other ways to actually raise money. But yeah, those are things that I'm sure there are people who can speak better about them more than me. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great summation. I hope Norbert, you're okay with that. Do we have any other questions? Please do raise your hand or put them in the chat box. If you have any contribution as well, you could lift up your hands. Okay, Akala, you can unmute yourself and talk. Please, if you're done. Oh, Akala, you didn't want to talk. If you don't have any other question, you can lower your hands, please, Norbert, or any other person. Yeah. Let me check the chat.
Yeah, great session, James. Thank you very much for sharing your journey and all that stuff. My questions are two, right? My first question is, I see ADPList on the website as adplist.org. Did you go the NGO route or you went the company route? And what were some of the challenges that comes with it? Because up to now, you can still register on ADPList for free. So then, which brings me to the second question: how are you guys even making money? Yeah. So those are my two questions.
Yeah. Okay. These questions came later than I thought, but I was expecting the first question to be this anyway. So ADPList started as a non-profit, and then we transitioned to a startup. Reason is we needed resources, and you cannot actually leverage or survive on grants and donations to building a platform like this. So that's the simplest answer. Hence why we went through Surge 5 by Sequoia Capital, and then we were able to raise that money. It was not the easiest decision to make, but I mean, it's needed. So again, as a founder, one of the things you need to do is you have to take tough decisions early and quickly for your company as well. Money is very important to building anything, and so you need money. The second question is, how are we making money? At the core of ADPList, we do not actually make money because mentorship, again, our mission is to democratize it, make it free. But obviously, the company needs to survive. We need to pay people anyway. And so there are several initiatives that we've done, created to actually help us make some money. One of those things is partnerships. And so as a platform, we have access to a lot of people, a community of people, and just think of it as like partnership to provide exposure for some companies, right? So we partner with companies, and then in partner, you basically pay an amount of money, and then you are basically featured in our events because we host a lot of events and things like that. And so that's one of those ways. Another way is, I don't know if you guys have seen ADPList. I've forgotten the name. It's been a while. But then there is this particular longer term mentorship. Again, we believe that yes, mentorship should be free, but there is a certain extent where somebody, if you want to, let's say, make somebody a mentor, or there are people who are actually building businesses out of mentorship, right? So there are professional mentors. We should also provide them the platform to be able to also build their business. And so the idea is, yes, people should have access to mentorship, those who want to offer mentorship for free, which we encourage. But then there are those who want to actually build businesses as a mentor who already do it anyway, and they have their customers. So why don't we give them the tools to basically make that happen? Which obviously is something that we've also been able to do. There are other things as well, like we basically sold some courses. We had some events where we sold some tickets, things like that. So there are various ways to actually make money without necessarily having users to pay for basic mentorship. Yeah.
Can I do a follow-up question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So that's very interesting, right? Because even though I personally know of ADPList, right, I've been seeing like on LinkedIn, I don't see, like, I've seen that most of your events are like virtual, right? And so do you have like a team? How many people are you in the company? And I mean, because you have like a lot of partners and all the big names, right? So how did you even bag your first partnership?
So there is a team. Right now, there's a team of about, I think, less than 10, but close to 10, handling things. With the events, most of our events are not paid events. So we have like community leaders and volunteers that basically handle those events as well. So I think at the center of everything, ADPList is still sort of a non-profit because we don't profit of anything that we are doing in the community. And so we usually have people who are willing to support and stuff. Partnership is if you build the credibility, people want to associate themselves to you. I think that's the simplest answer to this question. And so if you're building something and it's really good, people talk about it, One of the reasons why we got into the search is because of the community movement. Like, we were just all over the place, and so everybody wants to associate themselves with you. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Welcome.
Awesome. We're still open for some questions as we round up the session. If there's any contributions, you could submit them as well. We could do the chats, or you could just raise your hand. I think Hofe, you can unmute yourself and ask your question or submit your contribution.
My only question is a follow-up question of what my sister actually asked. Would there be a point where ADPList will go non-profit and become profits? Are you going to introduce features to actually make that possible? And how is it going to benefit mentors in the end?
Yeah. So I can't say there's going to be a point where ADPList will go one side or the other, because startups, we are still figuring out a lot. A lot is being figured out. Even right now, we're still figuring out how to make money. We still need to make a lot of money anyway, without taking money from people. And so, that's still going to be something that is going to be a question to answer all the time. If you have suggestions, do share. For mentors who want to make money, we already have the tools to make that happen. And so it's already there. So if you want to make money off your mentorship, we already have the tools that would help you to set up your own mentorship business. So for instance, how do you set up a mentorship business? What do you need? You need a way to meet people online. That's if it's an online session. You need a way for people to book sessions with you. You need a profile where they can see your portfolio, things like that. We already have all of those things. So it's basically just plug in and then go ahead to do your own thing. And if you're making money off your mentorship business is making money, we also have the ability to also, you pay as a percentage of whatever you're earning. So it's already there. Yeah. Hope that answered your question.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Mensa Emmanuel, personal courses you'd recommend for a new designer. How many of you guys know Pablo Stanley? He has this course, beautiful something, gorgeous UI, something. I've forgotten the title. I think that's like one of the best courses I've seen. It's fun, it's interactive, goes straight to the point. Everything about it is great for a UX designer. I think any form of designer can also take that course as well. But so far, that's the best course I've seen. And aside that, YouTube is enough. Figma videos are enough, to be honest. The second question, what's the best way for an African entrepreneur to use or leverage ADPList? That's a good question. So an entrepreneur or whoever you are, you need mentorship, right? Mentorship, how I think about it is like, if you want a shortcut to something, just ask somebody who has experienced it. So if, let's say, you've not cooked rice before with a rice cooker and you are going to cook, what do? You go and look for the menu or recipe or something. It's because somebody has experienced it. So it saves you a lot of time, try and error. You don't end up wasting your rice. Okay? So just ask, why is this guy's laugh? Just ask somebody who already has experienced it, and then you basically figure out what mistakes they've made. And so as a founder, entrepreneur, just go on there, look for the people who have built businesses. Yeah, thanks for sharing that course, Chris. People who have built those businesses before, especially technical founders, and then also design for, again, if you're a designer who is building a product, it's a good time for a designer to build a company. YC is going to take you. So if you have a product that you think it's great, just apply to YC. They have a soft spot for design founders now. And so look out for people who have ever built a company but are technical, especially if you are not technical. So if you are not a technical entrepreneur, and you want to build a product, or you are not, let's say, a designer, but then your product needs to rely heavily on design, speak to people who are designers, especially design leaders who have led teams. They will give you a lot of insights that you can use as well. So easy. So Graham, nice. What's up? As a co-founder, what's the specific local and global challenge you've underestimated in your journey? I know I'll offend people, but I don't care. Your own do not support you. Unfortunately, I remember when we started ADPList, I reached out to a few friends that I really loved. But yeah, I don't know where they are. So don't rely too much on friends. Rely on people who believe in a business. They can be friends, they cannot be friends, but when you are doing business, focus on business. Don't do family and friends, unfortunately. So especially in Accra. So yeah, sorry. Uh, okay, so yeah, so Chris has shared the course. That's the course, the second link. It's the best course I've seen personally. Maybe some of you have other courses. Feel free to share as well. Yeah, I hope I answered your questions.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions? As we round up this session. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if Hofe, you still have a question or you didn't lower your hand, but yeah.
There is a follow-up question. There is a follow-up question.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Let me read Graham's question, then you guys will come in. A follow-up. One thing you didn't get right or failed at in your journey as a co-founder, and how that shaped. Okay. One thing I didn't get right was learning very early about growth design, marketing, and then business in general. I think was one of the things that I lacked a lot. And another very important thing is being very involved in a community. As you can see, most people know Felix to be co-founder of ADPList. Like, most people don't even know that I co-founded ADPList. It's just recently that people are beginning to realize it. And so, like, I think it's one of those things which is, I think, the problem of most of us from this part of the world. We are too, how do you call it? I've forgotten the word, but we try to hide how good we are, and so we end up not necessarily putting ourselves out there as much as we should have. And so, yeah, I learned a lot more about growth design. I learned a lot more about marketing. I learned a lot more about interpersonal relationships, communication, and then also getting more involved in the community. And today, like, it's one of those things that I think sets me apart as a founder, even aside my technical skills, which is like design and development as well. So yeah. Kevin.
Yeah, James.
Doesn't just end there. Communicating the right things are very key. So first of all, one of the things that build a strong relationship is having to understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's something Felix and I excel at extremely. Probably the best duo I've ever seen so far in any startup remotely built, right? And so you need to understand the core strengths and weaknesses, and you should be comfortable with not having uncomfortable conversations. That's the thing. If you are not comfortable having conversations with your co-founder, then there is a problem. Like, there is a huge problem. And you guys need to sit down and align on stuff. Again, you do not need to sit in person. Technology has made it easy for you to communicate with people nowadays. And so those of you who think you need to meet the people, like somebody you're building a business with, for you guys to sync and vibe energy, that thing, like, Charlie, you don't need it. In my experience, and probably I'm a living proof of it, right? Sometimes it helps because people have different personalities. There are some people that they want to feel like your skin so that they know that Charlie, you did things like that. But oftentimes you do not need um, things like that. And so communicating the right things are very important. And Kevin, you can practice with your girlfriend. I mean, things like that. It's very key to any form of relationship. And so that's probably what I can say about that. Yeah. Oh, and you need to be able to speak the same language. So if your co-founder is a Chinese and can't speak English, it's not going to work. So you need to speak the same language as well. So, yeah. How are you handling the fame of being a serial? Yeah, I nearly read that as a serial murderer. Anyway, um, so a serial founder, I don't think I have any fame. I really, really do not think because life is still the same. I've never gone out somewhere and somebody has paparazzi or anything me. And so I still think I'm still in the grassroots, still figuring life out. But there are cases where you have conversations. I'm not hiding, guys. There are cases where you have conversations with people and they seem to have known you. So it just makes conversations easier. So I think the good thing about that is it makes conversations easier. It makes opens up opportunities for you because again, it's like your work is out there, and so people are seeing your work, and so right off the bat, having conversations with people is easier. They trust you. Like you already built that trust before even engaging them. Which brings me to one thing, guys. If you are doing something, put it out there. Like you do not know who would be looking at your work and would be inspired to do something, right? There are so many companies that have been started because I posted a Webflow template, um, things like that, right? I remember a company wanted to hire me because I posted a Webflow template of a link in bio that I did for my girlfriend. And somebody just built a company off that and they are making a lot of money. I gave it to them for free, right? Things like that. So please put your work out there. It doesn't matter how it looks. I mean, it matters, but I mean, you know what I mean. So things like that. What do you do when you are low down as a founder? Charlie, I don't have a choice. I can't be low down. Like, I can't. You cannot. I don't have the luxury to be low down. If I feel low, there is always somebody's problem that I need to solve. And so I do not have luxury to, so I can't answer this question. As a founder, you are always in a position to solve a problem, whether it's the customers you are dealing with or the people you've hired, your team. And so there is this constant battle of priorities and everything. So you yourself, you do not necessarily have time for yourself. One thing I've learned to do is just to keep my mental health safe and healthy is to find hobbies to do. And so one of the things I like is to build stuff. And thank God there are so many tools that you can vibe code and build products nowadays. So build stuff, learn new stuff, and then also recently I've started playing games. And I think there are some people on this meeting that I whip a lot as well. So yeah.
Awesome. I think if there's no other question, we'll wrap up this session. But yeah, before we do, I think this session is brought to you by Building Bytes. We do have a new episode out. Please do check it out on our YouTube channel. Do follow us, like and subscribe to our content. Yeah, and also we have the second edition of our mastermind session coming up. Is specifically for our community members. So if you're not in our WhatsApp community, please do join our WhatsApp community. We'll drop a link in the chat or visit any of our socials, Instagram. You find a link there and you join the community. So yeah, we have a new episode out. Go watch that. Great content. Like it. And yeah, please do join our committee so that you'll be part of the next session that is coming up. It's coming up next week, 7th, the Saturday. Join the community and you have more details on that. Yeah, thank you very much, James, for being here. If nobody else has any questions, I think we'll wrap up this session. Yeah, thank you very James, for being here. It's been very insightful. We do appreciate your presence here, and hopefully we can get you on, any of our other events that we have for the podcast, or, coming to Demo Friday. But yeah, we do appreciate the time, and your knowledge has been invaluable.